It's been a while since I've done a movie review, so I've come back with a review of not just one movie, but I'm going to review two movies. This here is what I call a double feature movie review. Starting with the Spongebob movie, Sponge Out of Water. The Spongebob movie is the sequel to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie that came out about 4 years ago. Now, the first SpongeBob movie, I remember seeing it, but I never really watched it again after that because, I don't know, for some reason I just didn't really care for it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like SpongeBob. I love SpongeBob. I grew up on the SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon that's been around since 1999. God, that makes me feel old. But I've recently heard that part of the reason why I didn't really care for that first movie is because the writers of the first couple of seasons of the SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon were not on it. And hence the reason why the show has lost its mojo for the past decade or so. Now, SpongeBob was part of Nickelodeon's more edgier shows from the 90s, like Hey Arnold, Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life, Doug, and many others. But then as the show got more popular, it became more sanitized. So Paramount and Nickelodeon brought back the writers from those first couple of seasons of SpongeBob for the Sponge Out of Water. Now the premise of this movie is Plankton, as always, is trying to get the Krabby Patty formula, but then it disappears, and SpongeBob and Plankton have to work together to find out what happened to it, and then eventually the two of them, as well as the rest of the primary characters, get transported out of water to fight a pirate played by Antonio Banderas. And his story intertwines with the story, and it's really silly if you think about it. Now going into this movie, I didn't expect much from it, so I immediately lowered my expectations because, let's face it, who's going to really take a SpongeBob movie seriously? But surprisingly, this movie was really fun and entertaining. This movie had moments that reminded me of the first couple of seasons of SpongeBob, and not only that, it felt like this is a movie that you could take your kids to go see and adults can watch it and not feel like they want to shoot themselves in the head. There are moments in this movie that were very adult. I'm telling you, I took my younger sisters to go see this movie in the theaters, and the audience was predominantly kids, but there were some adults in there laughing with the kids. Seemed like they were having a good time just as the kids were. Now, I have heard some people mention that there are some moments within the film that feels like an acid trip or a stoner trip. And frankly, there was. I think my biggest gripe about this movie is that they definitely mismarketed the movie because all the posters and trailers, they made it seem like the majority of the movie was just going to be when they're out of water and it's going to be CGI. Because apparently studios say every animated movie has to be CGI because people, let alone children, don't give a crap about traditional animation anymore. The CGI portion of this movie really isn't until the last act of this movie. The rest of the movie is traditional animation, and that brought a lot of joy to my heart. As far as the CGI portion of the movie, it was surprisingly good, and when they did turn into superheroes, it was actually fun. In the end, it feels like I'm praising this movie. Let's be real, this is a SpongeBob movie. Nobody can't really expect nothing much from this, though. I still really enjoyed it, but I did feel like the middle section of this movie did kind of slow down a little bit. To be honest, I wanted to take my nephew to see this movie with me and my younger sisters, but his mother, my older sister, said he's not allowed to watch SpongeBob because she feels it's too edgy for him. With this movie, I don't think that's really the case. I walked out of this movie thinking he really could have saw this movie. I feel like what they did was they made this movie edgy, but not edgy enough to the point that it would have concerned parents. They made a movie that was pretty well balanced, that was edgy like the first couple of seasons of the SpongeBob cartoon, but at the same time made a more acceptable movie that parents wouldn't get concerned. It was pretty well balanced in my book. So I'm going to give the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, a B average, for I will buy on DVD or Blu-ray. Next up, we have Jupiter Ascending, which stars Mila Kunis, Channing Tatum, Sean Bean, and Eddie Redmayne. It is that classic space adventure tale, but then Channing Tatum comes along protecting her from this alien race and tells her that you are the reincarnated soul of this queen. Now first, let me talk about the positives, because this review may take a complete 180. The lead cast in this movie, Mila Kunis, she was functional in the movie, but we could all agree that her character could have been played by anybody. But she was functional in the movie. But for Channing Tatum, I thought him and his action scenes with his little hover skates were the coolest parts of the movie. The visuals in this movie are stunning. We are in February, and the effects in this movie makes it look like it's a summer movie, which is ironic because this movie was supposed to come out in the summer of last year, but they pushed it back because the special effects weren't finished. Quick side note, I do like the Wachowskis, like The Matrix, one of the best films that was ever made in the past 2 decades. Its sequels, that's a video for another day. Speed Racer, I never really saw it, but it looked pretty. V for Vendetta, which they produced, but you can tell they had their fingers in it, and that's a pretty cool movie. I generally like Ninja Assassin. Cloud Atlas, I never really saw, because I hear everyone is indifferent on that movie. I like the Wachowskis because they know how to make a great visual experience. Now, does this make up for substance in the story? Now, this is where the negatives come in, and oh my god, the story element in this film was a mess. They marketed this movie as Mila Kunis playing a character named Jupiter who's down on her luck, and now she's a fish out of water. She must step up to the plate to be all she can be and to become a great warrior. And that by the end of the movie, she's kicking ass, but in reality, the movie started out that way. The movie turns into a galactic battle over land. The best way I can describe the vibe of this movie is it's like Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. It has some really cool scenes in it, but then it goes into this political dialogue that no one really cares about, and it's putting people to sleep. The movie has characters that seemed relevant, but you automatically forget about them as the movie goes on. The biggest problem that I have with this movie is that it lacks focus. Things just happen. It was like, alright, we need to go talk to this person, and then you need to go talk to that person, and then we need to go talk to this person. Then you need to go talk to this person. The final person, which is Eddie Redmayne's character, he doesn't really become relevant to the end of the movie, which did make up for a sweet, awesome action scene at the end. But the character Eddie Redmayne played was laughably bad. The funny thing is, Eddie Redmayne, he's nominated for an Oscar for playing Stephen Hawking in The Theory of Everything. Now, I haven't seen that movie yet, but I did like him in the movie Les Miserables, which he was in. He was pretty good in that movie, but watching him in this movie, you're like, there is no way that this guy could be nominated for anything other than a Razzie. Throughout the movie, he has like two tones. He's just talking like this. I will destroy her planet before I let them take her away from me. Now go find her! That is literally how he talks throughout the whole movie. In the end, Jupiter Ascending looks great. Everyone in the movie did their part. Eddie Redmayne's performance in the movie was laughably questionable. The concept of the movie was really good, but the execution of the story aspect of it was all over the place. It's like the Wachowskis wrote up a concept and treatment. They should have stopped right there and then handed the script portion of it off to someone who's good with making good scripts. They should have been like, alright, look, here's the concept and treatment. I give you to handle the script, do you. But no, the Wachowskis went on and wrote the script themselves. Is this a movie that you need to go rush out and see? No, but if you really want to see it, I suggest you see it in an IMAX theater at matinee price. Because I think if you saw it in IMAX, you would enjoy the experience a little more. And the film makes up for it for its cool action scenes. And because I'm saying seeing this movie at matinee price, that means I'm going to give Jupiter Ascending a C average for matinee. Does this hurt my chances for an Oscar? If it does, then tell my agent he's fired! That's it for my double feature review. If you like what you see, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to my other channel. The links are in the description below. And be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. And be sure to check out my other rundown videos and my website. Peace.